All right, so we're diving deep into AI today, right? Lots of people have been asking for this.
Yeah, it's a hot topic.
It really is. Tons of advancements lately and some, well, let's just say interesting viewpoints out there.
For sure, and it's evolving so quickly, it's tough to keep up.
Exactly. It's like every day there's something new to wrap our heads around.
It's exciting, though, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And a little bit daunting, you know? But that's why we're here, to break it all down.
Right, makes sense of it all.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to start with, something I actually got my hands on recently, is this thing called the Rabbit R1.
I've heard of that.
Have you?
Mm.
It's pretty wild. It connects to the internet, and you can give it voice commands to, like, do stuff online.
Like a virtual assistant, but for anything on the web.
Kind of. But it uses these things called AI agents, and there's this feature, Lamb Playground. It's pretty next level.
Okay, now you've got my attention, LAM. That's language action model, right? So these agents can understand what you mean, not just what you say.
Yeah, it's not just about keywords anymore. The AI is actually, like, figuring out the context of what you're asking.
That's huge. So it's not just pulling up websites based on keywords. It's actually interacting with them, like a human would.
Exactly. I was messing around with it, and I asked it to find news about, let me see, recently retired city managers. Kind of random, I know.
No, that's a great example, because that's not something you could just Google and get a straightforward answer.
Right. And this thing, it dug through, like, local news sites, government websites, even found some blog posts. I was impressed.
That's way beyond your typical search engine.
Totally. And then, just for kicks, I had it compare a bunch of different note-taking apps.
Across different platforms and everything.
Yep. It was pulling up pricing, features, user reviews, the whole 9 yards.
No, that's what I call useful. See, this is what I'm talking about with AI. It's not about replacing us. It's about giving us tools to be more efficient.
Freeing us up for the stuff that really matters.
Exactly. Although, I will say, the R1, it's still a bit, early days.
Oh, for sure. I definitely hit a few snags. It's a little clunky.
But the potential is undeniable.
Absolutely. And it gets you thinking about, like, where this is all headed.
No doubt. And how quickly things are changing.
Speaking of which, we got to talk about Jeffrey Hinton winning the Nobel Prize in Physics. That was huge.
Absolutely massive. And well-deserved. His work on neural networks, it's the foundation for so much of what we're seeing in AI today.
It's funny, though. He seemed genuinely surprised to win. Like, he couldn't believe it.
Right. He was joking about being a computer scientist, not a physicist.
Exactly. But I think that says a lot about him, He's not in it for the accolades.
He's all about the research, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And he's always quick to point out that it's a team effort, a collaborative thing.
Yeah, he always emphasizes the contributions of his students and mentors and how important that exchange of ideas is.
Which I think is really refreshing to hear, especially in a field that can be, well, a little bit competitive at times.
Yeah, totally. But to really understand the impact of his work, we need to dig into this concept of neural networks. It's kind of a big deal.
It's the heart of AI, right?
Yeah.
But I'll admit, it's always seemed a bit mysterious to me. Like, how do you even begin to teach a computer to, think?
Okay, so imagine this. You want to teach a computer to recognize a cat, right?
Okay, I'm following.
Now, the old way of doing it, you'd have to program in all these specific rules like look for whiskers or check for pointy ears. It was very rigid.
Right, like trying to define something as complex as a cat with a bunch of simple rules, it never quite worked, did it?
Exactly. But with neural networks, it's totally different. Instead of rules, you feed the computer tons and tons of data.
Like pictures of cats.
Exactly. And dogs and birds and everything else. The neural network, it's modeled after the human brain, so it starts to recognize patterns in all that data.
So it's not that we're telling the computer what a cat is. We're letting it figure it out on its own.
Exactly. And that's the key. It learns from experience, just like we do.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot more sense now.
And it gets even cooler. There are these techniques like backpropagation, which basically means the network can learn from its mistakes.
So it's constantly refining itself, getting smarter over time.
Exactly. And that's why we're seeing these incredible leaps in AI capabilities.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. And it's all thanks to pioneers like Hinton who dared to imagine a different way of doing things.
And yet, he's not afraid to talk about the potential dangers of AI either.
That's what I find so fascinating about him. He's not blindly optimistic. He understands the risks that come with this technology.
And he's actually become more vocal about them in recent years, hasn't he?
He has, especially after winning the Nobel Prize. It's like he feels a responsibility to speak out.
Well, when you're considered one of the godfathers of AI, your words carry some weight.
No doubt, and he's not holding back. He's even said that AI could surpass human intelligence within the next couple of decades.
Which is, that's a pretty big statement coming from him.
It is, and it's something that a lot of people, even in the tech world, are starting to grapple with.
He's not alone in expressing these concerns either.
No, definitely not. There are quite a few prominent figures sounding the alarm about AI.
Which makes you wonder, are we on the right track with all of this? Should we be excited or terrified? Maybe a little bit of both.
It's a valid question, and one that we're going to explore further as we delve into some of the other sources we have lined up.
Because it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it.
Yeah.
And the potential consequences of our actions.
And who gets to make those decisions, which is a whole other can of worms.
Oh, absolutely. But we'll save that for later. For now, let's dive into some of the specific concerns that Hinton has raised about the trajectory of AI, because they're pretty thought-provoking.
Yeah, he doesn't just say AI is dangerous. He gets into the specifics, and that's where it gets really interesting.
Especially his issues with certain figures in the tech world, like his comments about Sam Altman. That was big news.
Oh yeah, that caused quite a stir, especially considering the whole Ilya Sutskever situation.
Wait, you're talking about how one of his own students essentially fired Sam Altman. Didn't that rock the entire AI community? What did Hinton have to say about all of that?
Well, buckle up, because his Nobel Prize acceptance speech was basically a public call-out of Altman and OpenAI's current direction.
No way. I did not hear about this. Tell me everything.
He basically accused Altman of prioritizing profits over the responsible development of AI.
Whoa, that's a serious accusation, especially given what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And it gets even juicier when you consider OpenAI's history. They didn't start out as this, corporate entity.
Yeah, they were nonprofit, right. What happened? Why this sudden change in direction? And why does Hinton disagree with it so strongly?
So OpenAI was founded on this idea of open source development, making sure the benefits of AI were accessible to everyone, not just a select few.
That makes sense. More democratic approach to this powerful technology.
Exactly. But then, under Altman's leadership, they shifted towards a more, let's just say, commercially driven model.
So more about profits than sharing the wealth, so to speak.
Basically, yeah. And that's what Hinton takes issue with. He sees it as a betrayal of OpenAI's original mission.
And a potentially dangerous path for AI development.
Precisely. He's worried that putting profits before safety could lead to, well, who knows what.
Okay, now I'm really curious about this Sutskever firing. Because that just adds another layer to all of this.
Right. So Sutskever, he's the chief scientist at OpenAI, and he was actually a student of Hinton's.
Small world. So he fires Altman, and then what? How does Hinton play into all of this?
Well, it seems like Sutskever shared some of Hinton's concerns about OpenAI's direction.
So he takes action, tries to course correct, and then what? Does Hinton support his decision?
Oh, he definitely does. In fact, it comes out later that Hinton was actually advising Sutskever behind the scenes during this whole ordeal.
Wow. This is like a real-life AI drama unfolding.
It really is. And it highlights this tension that's at the heart of AI development right now, the balance between innovation and responsibility.
Because on the one hand, you have these incredible advancements happening at an unprecedented pace.
But on the other hand, you have these potentially huge risks, and someone has to be thinking about the ethical implications of all of this.
And it sounds like Hinton is trying to be that voice of caution, urging everyone to slow down and think about the consequences of their actions.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing some dystopian AI future. It's about making sure this technology is used for good to benefit humanity.
Which brings us to another big thinker in this space, someone who's also been making headlines with his views on AI, Elon Musk.
Yes, the ever-opinionated Elon Musk. He never shies away from a good debate.
And he's been particularly outspoken about AI, hasn't he? What's his take on all of this? Does he share Hinton's concerns, or is he coming at it from a different angle?
Well, Elon's definitely not afraid to make bold predictions, and when it comes to AI, he doesn't disappoint.
Like what? Give me the headlines. What does Elon Musk think about the future of artificial intelligence?
Well, for starters, he firmly believes that AI will soon surpass human capabilities in pretty much every way imaginable.
Whoa, really? In everything?
Well, maybe not everything, but he's talking about writing, art, even filmmaking. He thinks AI will be able to do it all and do it better than us.
Now, that's a bold statement. But haven't we heard this before? Remember when calculators first came out? Everyone thought kids would never learn math again.
That's a good point. And it's actually a comparison that Musk himself has made. He argues that we're kind of at that same point with AI.
So is he saying we're overreacting? that AI is just another tool, like a calculator. Help me understand how his analogy holds up, because it seems like we're talking about something a lot more complex than basic arithmetic here.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is AI just a tool, or is it something altogether different? And what happens when that tool becomes more intelligent than its creator?
Okay, so where were we? AI as a tool, right. Like a calculator, but way more powerful. Is that a fair comparison?
Well, Musk seems to think so, at least to some extent. He's not saying it's not a big deal, but he does draw parallels to those past technological anxieties.
Which is interesting because AI does feel different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's not just crunching numbers, it's creating things, thinking for itself.
That's the thing about Musk. He'll throw out these provocative ideas, get everyone riled up, but he usually has a point. He's not dismissing the potential dangers, not at all. In fact, he's been pretty vocal about the risks.
Right, but he's also a huge proponent of AI. He's got his hands in all sorts of AI projects, so it's not like he's saying shut it all down.
Exactly, and that's what makes his perspective so valuable, I think. He sees both the incredible potential and the very real dangers. He's not afraid to say, hey, this thing we're building, it could be amazing, but it could also go really wrong.
Okay, so walk me through this then. What are the specific risks that keep Elon up at night? He actually used the word annihilation at one point, right? That's pretty intense.
It is, and it's easy to dismiss that as hyperbole, but I think he's trying to shake people out of their complacency. He's saying this isn't just some sci-fi movie scenario. This is a real possibility if we're not careful.
So what, like killer robots taking over the world? Is that what he's worried about?
Well, that's part of it, I guess. The idea that AI could become so intelligent that it sees humans as a threat, or even just an inconvenience. But it goes beyond that. He's also concerned about the misuse of AI by bad actors, you know?
Like governments or terrorist groups getting their hands on powerful AI and using it for nefarious purposes.
Exactly. Think about those deepfakes that Hinton mentioned. Imagine those becoming so sophisticated that you can't tell what's real and what's fake anymore.
That's scary. Elections could be manipulated. Propaganda could run rampant. People could lose trust in everything.
Exactly. And that's just one example. He's also talked about AI being used in increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks, potentially crippling critical infrastructure.
So it's not just about AI.
Right, and that's what makes it so urgent. We can't wait until some hypothetical future where AI is super intelligent to start thinking about these things. We need to be proactive, put safeguards in place now.
Which is why he's such a big advocate for AI regulation, right? He thinks governments need to step in and set some ground rules.
He does, and he's been pretty critical of what he sees as a lack of urgency from policymakers. He actually tells the story about how he tried to warn the Obama administration about the dangers of AI back in the day.
Really? What happened? Did they just ignore him?
Pretty much. He says he met with some people at the White House, tried to explain the potential risks, even suggested setting up a regulatory agency specifically for AI.
And what did they say?
Well, according to Musk, they weren't really interested. He claims that Google had a lot of influence at the time, and they weren't keen on the idea of AI regulation.
Interesting. So we're potentially talking about powerful tech companies lobbying against regulation, putting their own interests ahead of, the future of humanity.
It's certainly something to think about. And it raises the question of who gets to decide how this technology is developed and used.
Yeah. Should it be left solely in the hands of corporations? Or do governments have a responsibility to step in and ensure that AI is used ethically and responsibly?
That's the debate, isn't it? And it's not an easy one to answer. There are valid arguments on both sides. But I think the fact that we're even having this conversation is a good sign. It means people are starting to wake up to the potential consequences of unchecked AI development.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting how both Hinton and Musk, despite coming from such different backgrounds, seem to arrive at similar conclusions. They both see the immense potential of AI, but they also recognize the very real risks. And they're both calling for greater responsibility, both from the people developing this technology and from the governments that are supposed to be looking out for our best interests.
It's almost like they're both saying, look, we're playing with fire here. We need to be careful.
Exactly. And speaking of big existential questions and playing with fire, I can't help but wonder about Elon's take on some other, shall we say, cosmic mysteries. Wow. Aliens, the meaning of life, that kind of stuff.
Yes, because when you're talking about AI and the future of humanity, why not throw in some aliens and existential pondering for good measure?
Right. So spill the tea. Did Elon go there? What are his thoughts on life, the universe, and everything?
Well, when it comes to aliens, he might surprise you.
Oh, Do tell.
Despite having thousands of satellites orbiting the Earth, with SpaceX and everything, he said he hasn't seen any evidence of extraterrestrial life.
Really? That's kind of shocking, actually. You'd think if anyone had a direct line to E.T., it would be Elon Musk.
Right. But he insists no alien encounters, no mysterious signals from space, nothing. At least not that he's letting on.
Okay. Well, you never know with Elon. He could just be throwing us off the scent. But what about the meaning of life? Did he offer any profound insights on that front?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. When asked about the existence of a higher power, a creator, the big guy upstairs, Elon didn't shy away.
Wait, seriously? Elon Musk, the tech titan, the guy who wants to colonize Mars, he believes in God.
He doesn't necessarily use the word God, but he does believe in a creative force, something that must be responsible for the universe and everything in it. He acknowledges that there are forces beyond our understanding, mysteries that science hasn't even begun to unravel.
Wow. So maybe not the traditional idea of a bearded man in the sky, but a recognition that there's something bigger than ourselves out there, something we can't fully comprehend.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point, especially coming from someone like Elon Musk. He's often portrayed as this, almost superhuman figure, but even he acknowledges that there are limits to our knowledge, to our understanding of the universe.
It's humbling, isn't it? We're talking about AI potentially surpassing human intelligence, reshaping the world in profound ways, and yet here we are, still grappling with the same fundamental questions about our place in the cosmos, the nature of reality, the existence of something beyond ourselves.
It's enough to make your head spin, and it really puts things into perspective, don't you think?
It does. It makes you realize that for all our technological advancements, for all our progress, we're still just scratching the surface. There's so much we don't know, so much we may never know.
Which is both terrifying and incredibly exciting, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's like we're standing on the edge of the unknown, and we have no idea what's out there waiting for us. And the best part is we get to figure it out together.
That's a great way to put it. It's a collaborative effort, just like Hinton said about AI research. We need all hands on deck, all minds engaged if we're going to navigate this crazy, complex, and utterly unpredictable future.
Hear, hear. So where do we go from here? What's the next step on this wild ride we call human existence?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And I think the answer lies somewhere in that beautiful, messy, and endlessly fascinating space between innovation and responsibility, curiosity and caution, the known and the unknown.
So no alien sightings for Elon then. I guess that's something. But what about the really big questions? Did he have anything to say about the meaning of life or, anything like that?
Well, funny you should ask, because he did touch on those topics. And get this, when asked about the existence of a creator, like a higher power.
You mean like God?
Yeah, basically. He said he believes in a creative force.
Get out, Elon Musk, the guy who's all about science and technology. He believes in God. I never would have guessed.
It's not necessarily about organized religion or any specific deity. He's more talking about this idea that there's something bigger than ourselves out there, something that started it all.
That's kind of humbling, actually. This guy who's launching rockets into space and digging tunnels under cities, he still recognizes that there are forces beyond our understanding.
Exactly. It shows a certain humility, a recognition that we don't have all the answers. And, it's easy to get caught up in all the hype and the fear surrounding AI, but ultimately we're still just tiny humans trying to make sense of a vast and mysterious universe.
That's a good point. For all our technological progress, for all our grand ambitions, there's still so much we don't know, so much we may never know.
And that's okay. In fact, I think it's kind of exciting. It means there's always more to discover, more to learn, more to explore, and who knows what the future holds. Maybe we'll crack the code on artificial general intelligence. Maybe we'll finally encounter life beyond our planet. Maybe we'll unlock the secrets of the universe. Or maybe we'll just keep asking questions and searching for answers, which is kind of what it's all about, isn't it?
I like that. The search for knowledge, the pursuit of understanding, that's what drives us forward. And whether we find all the answers or not, the journey itself is what makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the unknown, being open to new possibilities, and never losing that sense of wonder and curiosity. And hey, if we happen to create some world-changing technologies along the way, well, that's just a bonus.
I'm with you on that. It's been quite a journey today, exploring the frontiers of AI, pondering the meaning of life, even venturing into the realm of aliens and higher powers.
It's all connected, isn't it? Technology, humanity, the cosmos, these big interconnected systems that we're all a part of.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Big thanks to everyone for joining us today, and as always, keep those minds curious. We'll see you next time with another fascinating topic to explore.